Hey guys, I didn't think I was going to be doing this video, but okay. I had already done another video responding to Vogter's video where he linked to one that I made several months back, I think 4 months ago, so I made it back in April. To make a long story short, Vogter had gotten a letter from a young person who is an atheist, but he's living in a highly religious environment, feeling a bit depressed in that environment, and Vogter had basically expressed how he had mixed feelings about it, because on one hand he was happy that he could try to, give a little bit of light and support a young person, but on the other hand he felt sorry for them being in that type of situation. And he linked my video for this person to watch, or other people to watch who were in similar situations, because had done a similar video a while back, but she had asked people to put up videos for advice, and I made a video putting up advice, and apparently a lot of people liked it, which surprises me. I'm glad you guys found it useful. It feels good to know that, stuff I do, people find value in. But Vogter had recently linked to it as well, which was also surprising because, again, I did a video a long time ago, and so people are looking at the video. Now, the funny thing is, in that video, I stated that the smart thing for a young person to do would be to keep quiet and study the doctrine and the scriptures of the religious people that he or she has, a problem with or an opposition with, so that later on, when they are no longer being controlled in that sort of environment and they're free to be themselves and express themselves, not only are they going to have the passion to speak out, but they will also know that doctrine and their scriptures inside and out, and they'll be able to deal with them a lot better than if they had, just simply attacked right from the get-go without any knowledge of it. Now, I had done a completely different video that I was going to link to Vogter, where I was going to explain to people why it's very important to read the doctrine in these scriptures. Number one, you get to fully understand the minds of the people that you're arguing with, and two, well, actually, it's three things now. Two, you'll actually know the scripture better than they do, because most religious people, you'll find out later on, really don't know the scripture all that well, particularly Christians. There are a lot of quotes and things in there that they don't know are in there, or if they do know, they tend to have a really effed up interpretation of it. So you fully reading it with an open mind really gives you a leg up. But another reason, third reason, is that our society, Western civilization in particular, especially if you're dealing with Christian scripture, is based on a lot of that stuff. I don't want to get into it too much, but think of the phrases you use, think of themes that we use in literature, just think of, language and words and stuff like that. A lot of it stems from these old religious origins, because remember, before we had, governments based more on free thinking principles and so on, they were based on religion, and we're moving away from that. In order for you to understand what you're moving away from, you need to figure out what that thing is that you're moving away from to begin with, plus it'll give you a better appreciation for the society you live in, because we still have echoes of at least the linguistics and some of that biblical thought in Western society. I made a whole video on that. But now I'm going to do something else, because somebody gave me a perfect opportunity to show just how much you can get over on religious fanatics who think that they know more than you. I was noticing, I was just about to go to bed, and I noticed that I got a rather interesting comment in the comment section under that video. Let's look at the comment section. I don't know if you know this guy, because I don't know him myself, but he goes by the name ThickShades. Apparently he found out about this video, I'm guessing through Vogter, because I've never heard of this guy before in my life. And he wanted to try to jump down my throat, apparently he got upset because I pointed out that if somebody who refutes religion bothers to read the Bible, they will basically have a leg up on them and be able to show them up on some stupid quotes. So he decided to come in and try to show me up, going, hey, let me see you try to do something about this, and quoted Psalms 14:1 at me, which basically says that people who don't believe in gods are fools. And he thinks there's no way to dispute that, which I did by pointing out to him that, one, just because it's in the Bible doesn't make it true, because hell, in the Bible, for instance, it says that the stars are 6,000 years old. He never had an answer for that. Then I pointed out that, of course, back then people would say that God's, not believing in a God is foolish, because think about it. Back then there was no science, no critical thinking, no real logic. Plus, they were living under a system where they believed wholeheartedly in a God. They couldn't explain the world around them. And they had leaders saying to them that the reason why we're able to rule over you is because God allowed us to do this. So if people are pretty much living a life where they can't imagine any other way to be, right down to the fact that they believe the laws that are governing them are straight from a God, of course it would seem that, yeah, that's ridiculous. Only a fool would believe there's no God. Kind of like only a fool would believe that there's no sky. They could not conceive any other way. It doesn't make it freaking true. So I made a back and forth to him. And he apparently wanted to jump on the whole homosexuality thing. So I'm not going to go into the whole thing. If you really want to see the whole sordid account of how it started, go to the comment section. In fact, I implore you guys to do so because you'll get a very good laugh. But here's the main thing that sparked the whole debate, which really goes to show just how stupid people like this really are. His whole thing was to show that, you know, he tried to throw me a loop and go, hey, by the way, it's not homosexual, it's not homos who are, you know, sinful, it's homosexuality which is a sin, which is a stupid statement. You're going to say that gays are not sinful by nature, but the very thing that makes them gays are, which I pointed out to him. And then he came up with a bullshit quote from Matthew 19:12 about how people basically need to be eunuchs for God. Basically goes for there are some eunuchs which are born from their mother's womb, and then there are some eunuchs which are made eunuchs of men, and there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. Now, and he also asked me to watch his stupid ass videos, which I watched the first part, already knowing basically what it was going to say, and he did say what it was going to say, thus wasting my time. Before I go on, let me ask you people, you guys do know what a eunuch is, right? You do realize that a eunuch is basically someone who's either been castrated, you know, artificially, you know, physically, like somebody literally chops their balls off so they won't have any sexual urges, or it's someone who's born impotent, or those the sexual organs aren't working right, so they're not going to really develop any real sexual desire. That's a eunuch. That's also one of the reasons also why they've come up with terms like political eunuch, which is basically another word of saying that somebody's ineffective or impotent. Okay? You're with me on that, right? Apparently ThickShades has no fucking clue what a eunuch is, as we shall see, because he keeps thinking that he answered my question when I've asked him, if God hates homosexuality so much, why did he make gays in the first place? His answers in his dumbass video was, well, if you're born gay, you're basically a eunuch. Therefore, having sex would be a sin. So you shouldn't have sins. You're born a eunuch, so automatically you're born a eunuch for God. Which pretty much goes along with what Jesus Christ said. There is so much wrong with that statement. I don't even know where to begin. Again, we know what a eunuch is, right? Gays obviously cannot be eunuchs, because gays, the reason why they're gays is because they have a sexual desire for someone of the same gender. A eunuch would have little to no sexual desire and wouldn't have a problem repressing it. He apparently doesn't seem to understand that and thinks that when I point out that, look, your statement is wrong, he thinks, no, you're stupid for not understanding that gays are eunuchs. They're not! I mean, I don't know what else. He's one of those people that I wish I could just take a hammer and crack his head open and pour the knowledge in there so he can realize just how stupid he is. And then, like, you know, Frankenstein style, slap the cap back on, the skull cap back on, and like, oh shit. Yeah, you are that fucking stupid. Read a dictionary. Look up the term. The internet is more than just for porn or for jacking off the image of Jesus or something, whatever the fuck he does. But the information's out there. A eunuch and a homosexual obviously can't be the same fucking thing. Eunuchs don't have sexual urges. Gays do. If you are born a eunuch, as he's trying to say gays are, they wouldn't have any sexual urges. I don't understand what's so hard to understand, to comprehend about that. Now, there are three things he asked me, and I don't want to go further into that. You guys can read it yourself. But he asked me three things, and I basically went back with three basic questions that he has yet to understand. In fact, yeah, I asked him the questions first, and then he couldn't really get that. Here's where it goes. He's basically trying to say that any sex before marriage is a sin, and this is an easy way out for homosexuals, because if they don't have sex whatsoever, then they're basically eunuchs for God, right? Well, this doesn't answer three basic questions. One, Why did God make them homosexual in the first place and gave them urges to have sex with the same gender? He never answers that question. 2, if God wanted people to have sex before marriage, wouldn't it make sense, especially since he's so offended by it apparently, that you would not have any sexual urges until after you got married, especially since it's only through marriage that you're supposed to procreate? I'm thinking this is a logical, reasonable thing to ask. God apparently is really offended when people have sex before marriage. So I would think that if it's such a big deal for you, design human beings so that their desire to have sex, or even their ability to have sex, doesn't really work until after you get married, and somehow the miracle of God works forth, and works through you, and suddenly you're ready to have sex. That doesn't happen, does it? Now, you have people having sexual urges as early as 13, okay? That doesn't exactly go with the whole you better have sex only before marriage. It almost seems like God's trying to set you up. Why give you urges when and it's a strong freaking urge, very strong freaking urge to have sex, and then tell you if you do that, you're committing a sin? It's not fair. Why does he set it up this way? He never answers that question. Third thing I happen to throw in as an aside, it's interesting to note that he and his other people of his ilk love to state that sex before marriage is a sin, but yet the Bible also states that it was okay in the Old Testament for men to go around raping virgins as basically as the spoils of war. There's several quotes in the Old Testament where, basically you're able to go over and kill all the women and children, but the women who have never, known men, you can pretty much take them and rape them and make them your wife. And by the way, I really like that loophole. Once you rape them, now they're your wife. Except it's not really too much of a loophole, because you still had sex with them before they became your wife. It was you raping them that suddenly made them your wife. But that's still technically sex before marriage, and yet God doesn't seem to have a problem with that. I asked him that. The flip-flops he does to avoid those 3 points I made are nothing short of astounding. And once again, if you guys want a good lesson on why it's important to know their doctrine, read that comment section. See how the guy basically thinks he's in the right, but it's obvious he doesn't even know how to deal with his own scripture and comes up with other stupid statements that really don't help his case at all. And the sad thing is, he thinks I'm the idiot. That's the scary part. The fact that the guy doesn't even know what the term eunuch means. The fact that, and he admitted this, by the way, there's a quote in there that's going to blow your mind. When I asked him about the whole rape thing, he basically came out and was like, so what's wrong? What's wrong with, rape? Basically, when I was trying to say that rape was a sin, he goes, what makes it a sin? If you don't believe me, go in the comment section. He's basically saying it was okay for those guys to run around and, rape people. I guess because God said so. I can go on about this. There's a hell of a lot that's written, and I'm sure right after I'm done making this video, I'm going to go back in and see more dumbass statements. But seriously, guys, check that comment section out. If you really want a good example of why it's important for you to understand their doctrine so you can come back at them with it, look here. It's nothing short of astounding just how stupid this guy really is.